He is a father of four, a pilot, a TV star, a contractor, and a hell of a spear fisherman. I've seen it firsthand. Bryan Baeumler is my guest today.
Reluctantly.
Today's episode is brought to you by Habitat for Humanity. With the help of sponsors, donors, volunteers, and community partners, they build homes in family-friendly communities and sell them to qualifying homeowners. You can find out more at hfh.org. Thanks for listening today, and please subscribe and share with your friends.
Reluctantly.
How you doing, Terry?
Awesome, Bryan. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's great to see you. I know you got a hairy schedule.
It's been, let's say life has been full.
And sorry about the hairy schedule thing.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to start right off the hop.
I missed that one. How did I miss that? Oh, boy. It's been so long. I think it was 18 when I started losing my hair. So it's just, the first full shave was at 20. And it's just been so long. I don't even catch them anymore.
So at 20 years old, you just down to the wood and that was it?
Yeah, my barber actually said to me, Bryan, it's time. I said, time for what? He said, it's time. Let me cut it. He said, what do you mean let you cut it? He said, let me trim it down. And he went, I said, okay, but not too much. Let's go down to like 1.5 inches. But when you cut hair 1.5 inches, it sticks straight up. So then I was forced into just get rid of it. We'll see what it looks like. He said, it'll grow back. Don't worry. He lied.
When he approached you with this solution, I guess for lack of a better term, was your face getting bigger, or was it starting to happen in the back, or like where was it just all over? And...
It was the forehead was it was a 5 head, and then a widow's peak, and then it just kept going. But I shaved it at a time when I still thought I could keep it. So by the time it when I did try to regrow it a little bit later, then it was the full Captain Stubing, and it was just too late.
The full Captain Stubing instead of Isaac the bartender.
Exactly.
All right. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, I gotta take this off.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I ordered one as soon as you launched your website.
Very nice. I'm a little I'm not in that latitude at the moment, but I was last weekend.
Is this that's bryanbaumler.com?
Yeah, bryanbaumler.com, and 43 North is on there, and the whole gang. It's actually it's an homage to Oakville, Ontario, where I formed into my present self, I suppose.
Well, that's a good place to start, talking about hitting 20 years old and having that conversation with your stylist, because you were already a contractor at that time at 20.
Well, I took a break in between. When I was 14, I lived at the cottage in the summers, and I started a little handyman company with a friend of mine up on the Moon River in Georgian Bay, and we called it the Moon River Handyman. So for years, from 14 to the end of university, we picked up garbage and painted sheds, and we got in with a framing contractor and did all our apprenticeship hours to become framers. But graduating from a private school, you don't tell your advisors that you're going into carpentry. So I they said, Baumler, what are you going to do with your life? I said, well, I want to have a nice car, so I think I'll be a lawyer. And they said, that's very noble. And off I went to university, do a degree in political science, and started my business journey. And then a couple of years later, took a year off to go to Vancouver and planned to go to law school, but bumped into Pat, my partner from the Moon River Handyman, who was building beautiful houses on the West Coast. And that's when I realized that I wanted to be in the trade. So I went back to Toronto to George Brown to trade school, and that's how it started.
First, there's a number of things just with that last little series of
admissions.
Yeah. The first thing I want to bring up is the Moon River Handyman. Almost sounds like an 80s dance troupe where
it could have been.
Where it was just tool belts.
Yeah, it very well could have been. I mean, we were two young guys with a with a tinny and a 9.9, and we were looking to make some money to put gas in the boat, and that was it. We thought, what can we do here? And picking up garbage and mowing lawns, I think, was one of our first jobs.
Fallen into the contractor lifestyle, I suppose, and becoming that this was still, I suppose, at the time when becoming a trade was like, oh, well, he couldn't do anything else, so he became a tradesman.
Yeah, I had some funny stories from the early days of the company, but I mean, I grew up in a blue collar family. My dad owned a sheet metal company at the airport, so I mean, he wore a shop coat to work every day, and he came home covered in aluminum dust and dirty, and you know, we played with tools and anything that had to be done at home, we did it. But I was, 8 years at private school where everybody got dropped off in a luxury car and their dad was a businessman or a lawyer or a doctor or something. So it was, there was a little bit of a stigma there in school that, if you screw up in here, you're going to end up out there working with the maintenance guys. And there was always a little bit from me. I thought, shit, I want to be out there working with those guys. So there was a little bit conflicting in my younger years until, well, to be honest, until I was waiting to go to law school and bumped into Pat, and I saw, he had a great lifestyle and he was building. He got to play with the tools. He had a nice car, and I thought, well, there's a way to be in the trades, but also be a business owner and be successful and have the things you want, and I just went for it.
Nothing against accountants or lawyers, but it does seem like after hours there is more fun with the tradespeople.
Yeah, I mean, we used to make the joke, you'd be on the highway heading into town in a $100,000 pickup truck that you regularly throw your dirt bikes or your ATV or your snowmobile in, and you've paid for it in cash, and the guy next to you is in the leased BMW heading to his cubicle to punch numbers in and move paper around all day. Who's happier? And yeah, I think it was it took a minute, or it takes a minute, I think, for some people to turn their mindset around. And we see it in housing now. Everybody wants to be house proud with the big house. But if at the end of the day you're unhappy and you're poor and your friends think you're happy and wealthy, what's better? So I think you have to get over that. And I think now the stigma with the trades is kind of gone. And I like to think that HGTV and myself been a little bit of a part of that to kind of turn the nail banger into a bit of a rock star. So it's been, I think now people look at the trades and they're revered the way they should be, because our infrastructure, our roads, everything, has to be built. AI will not replace, these hands. Oh, yes.
You talk about building roads and that sort of thing. It's great to see more and more women. Like if you drive by a construction site right now, 8 out of 10 of the people behind the wheel of the big land movers, the excavators, whatever the case, are women. And there's more and more women getting into the trades because it's a lucrative opportunity.
And it's accepted. And I think, with the stigma and the way things were in the past, things have changed now. It's kind of a, if you want to come out and play, come on out and play. If you've got the skills to do it, jump in. So I think those barriers for a lot of people, even for men, the barrier to entering the trades because it was looked upon as a backup plan, the same as for women getting into the trades because it was looked upon as, well, women don't do that. I think those barriers have been removed. So now it's really like, hey, if you want to do this, do it. Doesn't matter who you are.
My niece is a killer tile setter.
Yeah.
She was under the tutelage of a guy who had been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
And she learned from somebody who was amazing, and she became amazing. She's since gone into something. She's working with her sister, with my other niece, and they're working for a different company that's quasi-trade related. But I mean, she was so in demand and making a fistful of money because she was really good at it. And if you're good at anything, it doesn't matter, electrician, tile setting, plumbing, framing, whatever the case, roofing, siding, you can really be busy and you could be making a lot of money.
Yeah, and once you establish a name for yourself, and I always say the keys to success in any business, but particularly in the trades these days, is show up when you say you'll be there, do what you say you'll do, cash the check, pay your taxes, and you can sleep at night. and you'll be in demand. Clean up at the end of the day. That was a big thing we became known for. And just showing up, you're ahead of, 70 or 80% of the pack to start off with. It's very much a business where you get out of it what you put in. And that's what I like about it. I'm not at the mercy of someone deciding that my job doesn't exist tomorrow. I get to work in different places, meet different people. There's so many potential doors you can go through in the trades. And that's one thing I loved about it. If I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, I don't have to, but I have to be happy with the lifestyle that affords me.
When you started, like you talked about building your family cabin when you were 14 and then getting into it and with your buddy, and did you have a specialty at first, or was it just general contracting, or did you go lean like toward plumbing or roofing or whatever?
It was framing mostly. We had done our apprenticeship hours with the framing company. So it's, first it was hauling garbage, and then it was picking up material, and then it was carry that up here and measure this, cut that. And before you knew it, it was, put on the hand cut roof and sheet it and get the ice and water down and move on to the next one. So we put our apprenticeship hours in, and before I had a chance to go and I never really thought about getting a job, so to speak. We opened our own businesses again right away. So that was it. It was kind of framing was the start, and we framed a lot of basements and got into the finished carpentry as well, with flooring and trim and door installs and that kind of stuff. So it started with sawdust and nails, that's for sure.
So you're at 20 years old, you get into it, and by the time you're 30 years old, that's 2004, that's wedding time for you and Sarah. So
Yep.
In between 20 and 30, I'm guessing, is when that courtship and all of that stuff happened. Where did you meet Sarah? What was the story behind that? Did you guys go to school together in Ontario, or what?
Yeah, so there's a caveat here. We knew each other in high school, but she was the younger sister of a good friend's girlfriend, one of my classmates' girlfriends that was at our sister school. So we knew each other. She actually worked at summer camp with my girlfriend at the time in high school. So we would always see each other around, our circles crossed and what have you. But we lost touch for about 10 years after high school. And I think I was 26 or 27, maybe 27. We bumped into each other just in the CC line of a group email. And I shot her a quick and very innocent, how's your sister? And how's Phil, my friend, that had since gotten married. So it was, at the time, it was a very innocent, how's the family? I haven't talked to you in a long time. That turned into a reply and another reply and a little bit of flirting here and there. And next thing you know, we're at the Lion King and having sushi for dinner. And that was it. That's history. Our first date was actually supposed to be September 11th, 2001. And it was canceled. Obviously, there was, she was working downtown in one of the high rises in Toronto, so that it was complete chaos. I was at the airport at the time, and the world shut down. And she said, well, we have to cancel our date. And I thought, you could have just said no. You could have just said no.
Yeah. Instead of all of this. That's some production just to not go out with the Baumler boy.
Exactly.
What was she? You said she was working in a high rise. What line of work was she in? Was she already in design, or was she doing something else?
No, she was, I think she was doing some legal work or legal assistant for one of the major banks, or a Nesbitt. She was working at Nesbitt. Some assistant in the office, shuffling paper, and not what she wanted to do. At the time, she wanted to teach dance. She had been a ballet dancer and modern and tap and jazz and that whole thing for years, but that's what she was doing when we started, and we dated for a little bit in Toronto. And I remember the conversation. I said, listen, I'm starting to like you, and I just need to let you know that I'm going to be moving back to Vancouver at some point. I had lived in Vancouver until 95 to 2000, and come back to Toronto, and that's when I did the trade school and all that other fun stuff. And I said, I'm going to be moving back. And in typical Sarah style, the next day she called me and she said, I've got good news and I've got bad news. And she said, well, you said you you're moving back to Vancouver. And I said, yeah. And I thought, okay, yeah, you're not into that. It's going to be over. She said, the good news is I like you too. She said, but the bad news is you said you're moving back to Vancouver. And I thought, okay. And she said, and I'm coming with you. So that was it. And she said, let's go. And we set a date, within a month. And we packed the pickup truck and drove back to Vancouver in a snowstorm, much to the chagrin of her parents. And that was history. We were out there for a couple of years.
You talk about the stigma of a tradesman. What did Sarah's parents think about that?
Well, it's funny because her sister's husband at the time, who was one of my classmates, he was very much penny loafers and chinos and a button-up shirt. And I was, dirty work boots and ripped jeans and a T-shirt. He was, let's sit and watch the game and have a ginger ale. And I was like, let's put our feet up on the table and have a beer and, watch Alaskan fishing or mining or something. So yeah, I think it was a bit of an adjustment for her parents. I think at first they looked at me like, oh man, what kind of life is Sarah going to have here?
Did she go to private school and stuff like that? You said you guys met whether you were in high school. So was that when you were at private school and she was also in the same sort of thing, or was she in public?
Yeah, I was at Appleby College for 8 years and she was at our sister school, St. Mildred's. And actually came to Appleby for 1 year in her grade 9 year when the school went co-ed, but then went back to St. Mildred's in grade 10. So, yeah, we were private school kids. That was it.
So when she decided she was going to tag along when you were moving back to Vancouver, how long had you been dating? Was it like just months, or was it a year, or what?
It was a number of months. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I don't even think it had been 6 months. But the interesting thing is there was a familiarity there. Our families knew each other. We knew each other's siblings. We knew, there was that warm and fuzzy. I wasn't waiting to find out some diabolical monster in the closet or anything because there was a familiarity there already, which I think was kind of nice. And she didn't tag along with me to Vancouver. She led the charge. She said, pack your shit. We're getting in the truck and we're going, which was great. And when we got out there, she actually, she had quit her job and she got a job teaching dance. And kind of got right into that.
Did you just go out in just a pickup, or was there a trailer involved as well?
No, I had the cap on the pickup, so we shoved everything in the back. And I still remember it was a violent snowstorm, and I still remember her parents saying, "Well, maybe you want to go tomorrow." I was like, "No, I'm packed. We're going."
So it was a snowstorm in Toronto, not the entire way across the whole country.
It was from Toronto until about Winnipeg. Yeah, no, it was a significant storm. Full whiteout conditions. I mean, it was crazy, but we went for it.
Mm-hmm. Nothing like a storm in the Canadian Shield.
That's nothing like a road trip in the winter.
The reason I asked about a trailer, if you had a trailer, you just said you just had the canopy. I wanted to know, can Sarah back up a vehicle with a trailer?
I don't know that I've seen that happen, Terry. I'm going to say yes, just in case she sees this. That she'd be very skillful, but I'm not sure.
Because for a tradesperson, that's marriage material right there. I don't care if it's a man or a woman, or somebody can back up a trailer, especially a short trailer. That's key. You want a key. That's a keeper.
That is a keeper. That's a big green check mark.
So how long did you end up staying in Vancouver? You couldn't have been there too long if it was 96, 97 when you went out there?
Yeah, I moved out in 95 after university, and that's when I bumped into Pat. I was doing, I had a small business at the airport as well, moving some cargo around, chartering planes, while I was then helping him doing some renovations and building, and that's kind of what turned me back to it. So it was the end of 99, beginning of 2000 when I went back to Toronto to get into trade school, and it wasn't too long after that I bumped into Sarah.
Then you guys got married in 2004.
Yeah, that was it. We got married in 2004 in September, and Quentin arrived in January of 2005. So, yeah, he was he grew very fast. He's a 5-month baby.
Sounds like you were on the Terry and Jody plan for having children in coinciding with the wedding date as well.
Yeah, we call Quentin the 1% baby. There's the 1% chance.
Mm-hmm.
and that was Q. He kind of kickstarted our, because at the time we had a little bungalow in Oakville, and I was out building things and renovating, and Quentin came along, or the idea of Quentin came along. The two lines, let's say that the positive result came along, and we kind of were like, well, are we ready to have kids? Our mortgage isn't paid off, but I'm still it was just myself and one guy working at the company, owner operator. I'm like, are we ready? And, we've since come to realize you're never ready and you're never not ready. So we kind of went with it, but we had the wedding scheduled for December that year. And we moved it up a little bit because, Sarah didn't want Quentin arriving at the wedding.
Well, the same thing happened with Jody and me. We went out to Jasper Park Lodge. It was winter, and that's where we went down below the lodge, right on the shore of the lake, one of the little wharfs there. And I had prearranged for a bottle of champagne to be at one of the outdoor bars, and somehow coerced here. It was minus 30. We had dinner, and I said, "Hey, you want to go for a walk?" She looked at me like I had antlers on my head.
Yeah.
Because I never want to go for a walk. But then we got engaged, and we had planned on coming back the following winter to the Jasper Park Lodge and maybe getting married there. But all of a sudden, it was a June wedding.
Yeah, times change. That's okay. You have to be reactive, right? You gotta be quick on your feet to adapt with the little surprises that life throws you.
And is anybody ever really ready for children,
No.
especially the first one?
The older I get, I realize you're never really ready for anything. I'm not ready to be 50 with 4 kids. I've got one, Q's turning 20 in a couple of weeks. I'm not ready for that. But you kind of get into remote control, right? And I remember when Quentin was born, I looked at Sarah and said, "Hey, if I have to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to put food on the table, I'll do that." And not knowing at the time that's what life would require of me with 4 kids and, all the chaos that we get ourselves into.
Reluctantly.
The podcast you are listening to is brought to you by The Terry Evans Show with Pete Potipko on Edmonton's Classic Rock, K97. You can listen to it from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday at 97.3 on your FM dial in Edmonton. If you are outside of the Edmonton market, you can listen online at k97.ca and click Listen Live anytime from 5 till 9 a.m. Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. The Terry Evans Show with Pete Potipko on Edmonton's Classic Rock, K97.
Reluctantly.
What is it like having a 20-year-old son?
It's I've realized how little I know, and I realize I should apologize to my dad a lot more. There's that, the kids get to that age where you're an idiot. You don't know anything. And, the kids will all, and cute too, which is great. I mean, you see them, they're starting to flap their wings a little bit, and they're kind of getting ready to go, which is the way it's supposed to go, I guess. But yeah, as a dad, all of a sudden it's like, you don't know anything, and you're old and your back hurts, and I'm young and I know everything. And I take a deep breath and I think, I did this to my dad. So I get it. Challenging the I guess the status quo, or the alpha, it's natural. So I'm happy, but I look at pictures when he was a little guy at 4 years older, all the kids now, and I want to cry because those little people are gone, like they don't exist anymore. So it's a really strange time of life. And I recently read a really interesting quote, and I don't know who it's from or who said it, but it said, being a parent, it's the only job in the world where your goal is to teach someone that you can't live without how to live without you. And, I read that and I was like, shit, yeah, that's kind of heavy. You want them to stay around, but there's challenges in the teenage years as well, as and there's times you're like, pack it up and get out. But then immediately you're like, come back for dinner and stay.
it is really interesting too, because I know just around Christmas, New Year's, and into January, you and the whole family went on a trip down to Australia, and I thought, well, that's great because I'm a little bit advanced in the boat that you're in. We're paddling the same boat. My kids are 27 and 24 now.
Yeah.
And this past summer, we were lucky enough that they both wanted to come with us and spend time out at our place in Shuswap in BC. But I thought when I started seeing that you guys were posting the odd picture from Australia and all four kids were with you, I thought that's great. The kids, they're all teenagers, or at least JoJo's going to be a teenager this year, right?
Yeah, she's 12.
Yeah. So they're all in that teenage sort of frame of mind, but they still want to be with you.
Yeah. And I think, I think the adventures we did in the Bahamas, I think are a big part of that. We had something that it's interesting. We say, we experienced something that not a lot of people get to experience, but it's in North America. We have a really odd thing in North America here where, we expect kids get to 18, 19 and it's flap your wings, go, get a job, get your own place, do your own thing. Where a lot of other places in the world, their housing is multi-generational. You have your parents around, you have your grandparents around. We all seem to spread out and have our own places and want to do our own things. But we had this wonderful opportunity to spend 3 years essentially in the same room as our four kids. We moved into a little villa in the Bahamas where we could make eye contact with all the kids. So we had to be pretty sneaky when it came to hug time, but it was a great experience. I think it's brought the kids a lot closer together. I think we've all experienced different kinds of stress and different kinds of joy and all kinds of things together. So it's really brought us close together. And the thought of them, leaving for good is kind of terrifying.
I feel the same way, but I remember when my daughter graduated from high school, or leading up to her graduation from high school, she was accepted to UVic in Victoria and also University of Alberta here in Edmonton. And she was really wrestling with the idea. Of course, Mom doesn't want her leaving. And Kate was, thinking, should I go? Should I stay? What should I do? And we were driving one day, and I just said, you know what? You've got a tremendous opportunity here. You can stay and live with us and save your money. You can work and you can go to school and you can do whatever you want to do. You can live at our basement, or you can go to UVic and be on your own and like right from graduation, essentially, is what it was. I said, part of the thing about going to the university is the going part.
Yeah.
I said, believe me, I'm not trying to kick you out, but the going part is how people sometimes become more well-rounded, or at least become hit that formative sort of situation.
Yeah. And I see that with our kids now. Q's actually living over in the Bahamas, working at the hotel now. He started a boat rental business and he's going to start doing some of the charters. And, Charlotte is going to High Point University in the fall, in the Carolinas. And so they're going, but it's interesting. I think for us, the world has become so much smaller, especially now since I've started flying as well. So it's kind of a go, but you're only a couple hours away and you don't have to take everything. With kids, you go back and forth from like, get out to never leave, and to shut up, to talk to me. And it's all over the place. So I think that is part of it. You don't want the kids to be too codependent and you want them to be able to go and live their life and thing, but it's a bit of a stab in the heart every time. So it's a really interesting point of life too, because we still have all four parents, the grandparents. And, my parents have had some health challenges over the past couple of years. And so have Sarah's. So we're in that strange place where we had that conversation. I said, in the next 5 to 10 years, we lose 4 kids and we lose 4 parents. And that's that messy middle that I don't think, it's like having a baby or getting married. I don't think we're ready for it. But you have no option, right? I mean, that's that cycle of life. It's what happens. It's what's supposed to happen. It's what everybody deals with. But it's a strange middle.
Especially the situation with, being together and then having children. And then so much of your life, with Q turning 20 this year, that's basically 20 years of yours and Sarah's life and 20 years of, mine and Jody's life and everything. And then when they do go, it's back to just the two of you. And are you you're completely different people than you were when you first started courting and leading up to the wedding and all of them getting pregnant before the 9 months, all of the things. So you have to almost reacquaint each other with each other all over again.
Yeah, there's going to come that day, I guess, where you're sitting staring at each other saying, what do I recognize you without everything that was there before? I mean, yeah, mentally, emotionally, I mean, even physically, what is it? Every 7 years, every cell in your body is a new one. So, I mean, you're 3 times a new person in 20, 21 years. So it's a really interesting time of life, but it's also exciting to see your kids, see them do better than you. You want to see them excel. You're proud of them. I mean, it's, with any of the kids, when they say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm great at this." And you kind of think, well, I did teach you how to use a spoon, and I used to wipe your butt cheeks. But yeah, it's good to see them excel, and you want to challenge them so they get a little better. But it's a bittersweet time for sure.
With Q, let's roll through the kids with Q. So to start off with Q, 20 years old, and the equestrian aspect of his life, which has been kind of cool to watch. And then you just mentioned he's back on South Andros working at the resort and starting up with is that where he sees himself going? Or, you mentioned Charlotte going to school. Does Q still want to hit school, or is he just thinking that he wants to do the boat business and charters and that's it?
Q's one of those kids that learns. I mean, similar to me, I did the school route and the whole thing. But if he wants to learn something, he reads every book and watches every video, and he'll try everything and learn it, and he'll master it. He realized riding. I think a couple of years ago they won the gold on Team Canada, and he realized he's talked to the professionals all around the world, and when they talked about what they can achieve and how it goes, Q kind of looked at me, said, I want to ride. I want to continue to ride. So we've still got one horse here that he shows and rides. He said, however, I also want to travel, and I want to have a boat, and I want to have vacations, and I want all these things. So he said, I want to work a bit and make some money and start a business and grow that so that I can come back and ride, for fun, for the love of it, not necessarily professionally or what have you. So he's at that point right now where he loves the water. He's Aquaman. So in, on, or under the water, he's found ways to monetize that, and I'll support him in it for now to see where he goes. But if he does decide to go back and major in something at school, we'll do that as well. But he's a very, very hands-on, in situ learner, and he's a terrifyingly smart kid. He's one of these 0 effort, 100% on the test kids. Which drives me crazy because that wasn't me.
And I remember, I mean, it's 5 years ago that Jody and I popped down to Caerula Mar just after you opened the resort, and we went out night fishing with Q and the maintenance guy at the time, whose name escapes me.
That was Todd.
Todd, yes.
Yeah.
We went out night fishing, scared the shit out of Jody. She was not enjoying herself. But I caught.
Was it the sharks or?
Well, it was the dark. It was the sharks. It was other things that rhyme with dark and sharks.
Yeah.
And so she was not enjoying it. But so we caught my strawberry grouper, and then kind of turned around and went back to the harbor. And it was nice because then we got to eat the fish the next day. But Q was he even at 15, he took charge, and he was.
Oh yeah. I used to let him run the 60-foot boat, and he runs the excavator at 12, 13 years old. So he's very he's not scared. One thing I can say of all our kids is post-apocalypse, I'm not worried about them. They'll be the ones building the shelters and hunting the food and taking care of each other. So we're not worried about that for sure.
What's Charlotte taking in university?
So Charlotte is taking an entrepreneurialism program with a side of business administration, which I think is incredible. High Point is where she's chosen. It's a very experiential learning school, heavily focused on entrepreneurialism and getting into business, scaling a business. And I think it's great. She's very excited about it. It's an incredible campus, and I'm excited to see her. She's very much her mom, so she will be in charge. Link is 15 now. He's getting excited to drive soon. He's the surfer. He's the athlete. The long flowing blonde hair that he'll probably have the rest of his life, into lacrosse and hockey and soccer and whatever. So he's just he's 15. And JoJo is, she's the animal whisperer. She's got her mini ponies and her horses and her chickens and ducks, and she's very active. She's even fishing now with her friends in the neighborhood. They'll meet up and hit the canals to go fishing. And she's a lover and full of adventure. So we don't know what direction Josephine's going to go, but whatever direction she goes, you better not be in her way.
It's been remarkable to see them grow up, especially since Island of Bryan, because that's kind of when they became more of a presence on TV, just because they were all, like you said, everybody was in the same.
They wouldn't leave us alone.
Yeah. So it's been fun to watch them grow and fun to watch their personalities develop. With their first names, where are their first? Quentin, Charlotte, Lincoln, and Josephine. They are, for lack of a better term, traditional names. Are they family passed down from prior?
Well, Quentin is. We just love the name Quentin. We put a Y in there because Bryan with a Y. I don't know. We threw a Y in there. He was almost Tyson, but it was right after Tyson bit the ear off, and we were like, okay, let's go. We hadn't even thought of it until then. We were like, oh, wait a second. But Quentin just kind of came naturally. He came out, and I looked at him. I was like, he's a Quentin. So he's Quentin Werner, after my dad is Werner Wolfgang. Charlotte, we have aunts, great aunts, Charlotte in German. So we loved Charlotte, and she's Charlotte Ann after Sarah is Sarah Ann. And then Lincoln is we just loved Lincoln. I don't know why he was a Lincoln when he came out, and it's Lincoln Wolfgang, like my dad, and he's the Wolfgang. It suits him. I mean, he just came out like a rugby player, or I say like a Great Dane puppy with the big hands and feet and giant head. He just we used to call him the Manimal. He was just a really energetic kid. And he still is at 14. And Josephine, we have another, from the past, great aunts and grandmothers, Josephina. So Josephine was a choice. Josephine Judith after Sarah's mom, Judy. So it's quite a collection of very strong names. And they're very strong kids.
Yeah, they sure are. I didn't meet the other three, but I met Quentin when we stayed at Caerula Mar in February of 2020. And just a really nice, 15-year-old boy with manners and respect and all of the things, and a hell of a spear fisherman as well. That was fun. One of the first, I think it was the first day or the second day when we were there. You asked me to come out and join you on the boat, and
you should dive in.
Yeah, it is a little reef just off the shore of.
It's like going to the seafood market. You just go in, you look around, you see what you like, and you put a hole in it and take it home with you and put it on the barbecue.
With all the kids, how involved, if at all, are they in your developing or becoming part of the Baumler Family Foundation for Kids?
I mean, they're a big driving factor. When you see you've got your own kids and you want to take care of them, and you see especially being down in the Bahamas, you see kids that don't have the same things or maybe the same opportunities. And we would see that, and the kids were very, very driven with that as well. I mean, I think that's from Sarah and I, and showing them that and teaching them that. But they're very into helping people, and they don't see themselves, as above or below anyone else. That was great to see on the island too. When they got there, they were just like, "Oh, there's kids," and they, they're off playing games and having fun. And there wasn't a question of like, well, why aren't you wearing shoes, or, why don't you guys have a car? that kind of thing. Just they're just kids. So I think exposing your kids to travel and different cultures and things like that, keeps them grounded. You see what's out there. You see what the world is like. You understand it a little more, and I think it helps with having some gratitude at home and hopefully instilling a little bit of philanthropy in them as well.
It's funny. I was going to ask how they felt about the People magazine article that came out. What was it, in November, just before Christmas? But I think everything that you just said probably just answered that question, because, that's the way the kids are.
Yeah, I don't even know if they notice. Like they've grown up. They've been born and grown up kind of on camera, or very soon after on camera, and I just think to them it's just kind of normal. It's interesting because they'll be very excited about other friends or what they're doing or what have you. And when I think about it, I mean, if I had thought as a kid, living the life that we are and moving around and doing different things, it would have been unfathomable. But for them, it's just kind of like, home is here, home is there, home's in Canada, home's on a boat, home is, they feel at home wherever the family is, which is kind of great.
Reluctantly.
The Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation is a proud supporter of oil country and has been contributing to our community's success since 2001, with a focus on programs aimed at those most vulnerable in our community and youth hockey programming as well. You can find out more about the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation by going to nhl.com/Oilers/EOCF.
Reluctantly.
We talked earlier about Vancouver, or I guess the GTA, and then Vancouver, and then GTA, and then back out to Vancouver, and you and Sarah together, and you getting into the trades, contracting, and that sort of thing. When did the TV thing happen? Was that pre-wedding or post-wedding?
That was post-wedding. I think we were shooting our pilot. It was all about the same time, because it was 20 years ago. So it was post-wedding, pre-Quentin, is when we started filming the pilot. And Quentin arrived during the pilot. Yeah, I mean, I had been working and watching these shows, and I just reached out to a production company and said, hey, I got 6 employees, and they're all great at what they do. I think I made a few jokes in there, too, saying most of them have all their teeth, and, 5 of them are sober at work and what have you, just some jokes. And I said, well, we'll come down for 3 months and we'll do all your construction labor for free in exchange for some advertising, for some marketing, wearing the T-shirts, that kind of thing. And that got all twisted around. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in the office with the head of content. She said, how would you like to do your own show? And it was, I was like, what? I was going to do this for free. I don't, yeah. Then it just kind of took on a life of its own.
So was that Leave It to Bryan, or was that Disaster DIY? Which one was first?
The first was Disaster DIY. We did nine seasons, 108 episodes, something like that. 108, 118 was a lot. And after the 3rd season was the first House of Bryan, and then more Disaster DIY, and then Leave It to Bryan, another House of Bryan, Bryan Inc., another House of Bryan, more Leave It to Bryan. Then we were into Island of Bryan. It's all a blur now.
It seems remarkable. It's so just out of the blue. What were you watching, Bob Vila, or was Mike Holmes already on TV at that point? And
yeah, they had just been. I think it was Homes on Homes and Real Renos at the time, and I just thought, look at this, Subtrade did a bit of work for this guy, and now he's got his face and his truck name and his T-shirt and the whole thing on there. That's great marketing, and I think it was just a great timing thing. And I don't know. It's interesting that, you don't see many people 20 years later still pumping out television and content like that. So it's just been a really interesting run. I hate watching myself and listening to myself and the whole thing, but I get it. It's a lot of people say, by this point, they kind of, whether it's the travel or the doing things or down south, or, people kind of live vicariously through the content. And, yeah, I don't know. There was a point in our lives we just kind of said, oh, we should buy this hotel and move to the Bahamas, or we should build a place in the Keys, or whatever it may be. And everyone said, no, you shouldn't do that. Be careful. Don't take risks. Stay in this box. And Sarah is certainly not a stay in the box type, and nor am I. So We got ants in our pants, and we just kind of go for it and do it. And I think people watch and they're either thinking like, these people are nuts. Look what they're doing. And they just want to see it happen.
I think that in the early shows as well, the DIY, I think a lot of the emphasis was on the reparation or the renovation or whatever the case might be. But I think once you started getting into the House of Bryan in the sticks, and then on the rock, like the cabin on the rock on that island or wherever it was, for me that was awesome. That's when we started really seeing the personality come out.
Yeah.
And I think that's when everybody realized that, hey, you're just a dude. It's like you were talking about earlier, sitting on the couch with your feet up and having a beer.
Yep.
And dealing with the frustrations and whatnot. It was so relatable on so many different levels for everyday DIYers or professional contractors.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. We've just kind of kept it real, and there's times we're filming and we're having creative meetings, and we just kind of go like, well, this is what's happening, so let's just go with it. And I think people have appreciated that. It's not. We don't script it. We take out a lot more information than we leave in, because there's just so much happening. Yeah, whatever happens, I mean, you can't write this stuff. It just happens. I think people they can tell if you're putting on a show or if you're just, I guess I have a look. People tell me I have a look sometimes on camera where they can just tell, I'm ready to dig a hole. Not necessarily for me, but yeah, I think, and Sarah's the same. So I think there's a lot of couples out there that have worked together or could foresee working together, and they're like, I get it. That's what it's like.
I think part of it too is realizing your sense of humor, being real. There's many times where something will happen on one of your shows, no matter what iteration of it is. And somebody will say something, and it's almost like we can see behind your eyes. Okay, there's some wheels turning, and I'd really like to say this. And I'm going, oh, I know what he wants to say. So
I always say the day after I retire, one of two things are going to happen. It's either going to be extremely entertaining on social media channels, or people are going to wake up in 10 years and go, whatever happened to that guy? He just disappeared. It's going to go one of two ways, and I'm not really sure which way it's going to go yet, but it'll be fun.
The houses that you built, like the one on the rocks, was it in the Georgian Bay, or like where?
Yeah, that's up in Georgian Bay.
Okay, and you still have that place?
No, we had 100 acres as the family compound, and that little piece of property actually was surrounded by our property. So we built there for us. When we got into the Bahamas and we bought the boat and the place in Florida, we were traveling, we weren't at the cottage as much, and we sold that one, but we actually bought the family property and the other cottage. So you'll see in this new show, Building Baumler, coming up this fall, you'll see, we went back to do a little Keep Alive program there because it was starting to fall down, and mom and dad are getting older, so we did a bit of a renovation on that, and we brought mom and dad up to see it again, and that, full circle. But it was interesting to see, we built that as a family together 30 years ago. And it was interesting to see how much effort it takes to put into things. And I think this is a metaphor for life in general, and how quickly they start to fall apart if you don't maintain it. It's a metaphor for everything, for relationships, for mental health, for your physical health, for everything. The amount of effort, you put into cleaning your room, and it takes your kid 30 seconds to make a complete mess of it. That was kind of a realization bringing my parents up, thinking, we've rejuvenated the property, but, mom and dad it took them a little longer to get up there and down. It was noticeable.
And then the place that you built that was, I think, your primary residence for a while there. And you don't have that now that you're living in Florida?
No, we sold that and we bought another property nearby that's a little bit smaller. And because, with us not being there as much, it was a little more than we needed. It was also right in the middle of COVID, and everybody wanted to escape the city. So it was a great time in the market to sell. And that was a tough property to sell.
I bet.
Because I loved it. It was a masterpiece, and the property was perfect. But being there, at the time for 3 years during COVID and building the hotel, being there once every 3 months for a night or two, we just couldn't justify it, with staff there and the whole thing. So, but that was a tough one. If I could pick that up and move it to the island, I would. And we still may one day, not pick it up, but do something similar. But you never know.
I would have just subdivided and just sold off the garage. I would have bought the garage, just the garage.
The barn. I mean, the barn was the spot to be.
Yeah.
I had the fireplace and the drop down screen and the surround sound and the wood shop and the tractor. It was great.
So you mentioned the one that's coming up in the fall. That's going to involve your family acreage.
A little bit.
A little
bit.
A little taste of what you can tell us what's going to happen with that.
There's a lot in this one. We partnered on another hotel property in the Florida Keys, Pines and Palms Hotel down in Islamorada. So you'll see the complete demolition and rejuvenation of that property again. It may have been in worse shape than Caerula Mar was when we started. It was very Margaritaville, old villas. So we just finished kind of rejuvenating that. We're doing some work at Caerula Mar as well. And I don't know, I may have mentioned this. We're just about to acquire the other hotel on the island on the west side and connect those. And there is a 600-acre development parcel available that we're putting some plans into play with the beach to the north and the south of the hotel as well. Looking at doing a very interesting development that's very farm to table, very holistic, very regenerative, and more of an experience to offer more. To bring more people to the island, but also offer more things to do, but keep everything quiet and low density and spaced out. So it's got the same feel, but there's maybe some more amenities there.
Yeah, well, I remember being on the boat and you showing me all of the stuff south of where the Caerula Mar existing resort is.
Yep.
And what your plans were. And of course, it was put on hold because of obvious reasons, COVID and everything like that. But,
world shut down a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear about all of your plans, especially with the resort on the west side of the island. And having been there and riding the bike back and forth and being up and down and then going to the karaoke bar with Carlos, who's now your executive chef. I mean,
yep.
There's all kinds of fun stuff that can happen at South Andros, which was just beautiful.
It's a pretty special spot. And I think, for us, it's a great legacy project. If the kids want to get involved, that would be great. If not, that's okay too. But it's, we've got a chance to really build something different, for next generation travel kind of thinking and retirement and, the whole farming component and the fresh food. And the older we get, the more we travel and the more research we do, it's all about the health and the food and the unprocessed and lifestyle and limiting stress and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I think that's what we're ready for. To be honest, I just want to spend the rest of my days on an excavator planting coconut trees.
Well, you're going to probably have to plant some banana trees, plantains. There's all kinds of trees you're going to have to plant down there if you're going to do farm to table.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's some great local farmers as well that we want to team up with and get this stuff all in and kind of have that's one of the reasons we stayed there during COVID. Most of the people on the island live by subsistence, and it's the right size population there that can truly live off the land. And it's very clean living. So we'll see. There's always more ideas popping up between Sarah and I, so we'll see where we end up. You never know.
Would the preference for you be that it remained a boutique style of destination rather than, some of the big resorts that are being built and still going up on some of the more traveled to destinations north of Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, Mexico?
I don't know that I don't know that we want to go that big. I think we still want to really have that off the beaten path, local flavor, just with a few more amenities and partner with more locals on activities and restaurants and grocery stores and things like that. We find when we travel to centers where it's too busy, it feels like a manufactured experience, It feels like a Disneyland. Like we're just, the whole island's here putting on a show for you. It's like being at Disney at the Polynesian, Do the locals really come out fire dancing every night at dinner? No, they don't. but you can get on your bike and ride down the road and see what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was quite an experience with some of the other things that you've done, including the battles on the beach and the rock the block and that sort of thing. First of all, why is Ty Pennington always yelling? And you don't really need to answer that. That's just a question I always have.
He's always excited. He's always very happy. Ty's a great guy. I mean, he's got a lot of energy. Hard to keep up with him, but he's always very excited. He's very passionate.
Scott McGillivray is someone you tend to have a really good time with, or at least it seems that way when we see it on TV. How long have you two been friends?
Oh gosh, I mean, Scott and I we've known each other for, I think, pretty close to 20 years now. 18 or 20 years, and we first met backstage of a home show. It's kind of a, hey, I'm on next. You were on yesterday. My crowd will be bigger, that kind of thing. And we've been great friends for a long time. We joked about having one of these shows. We sit in between our RVs at night filming Renovation Resort, or, we've done Home to Win and Handyman Challenge and traveled across the country. And, we always joke we'll publish some of the conversations we've had over the years after we retire.
And it's always good to have a good fishing buddy. You guys both really enjoy fishing, right?
It is, and it's interesting. I mean, we've had a really deep conversations, because it's hard in this business as an entrepreneur and a father and I don't know what you call it, a personality, a celebrity, or whatever, being on television, being in the public eye. There's not many people that get it. Like when I think, who can I go talk to about this that I'm experiencing today? There's not many people that are like, oh yeah, my calendar looks the same. I'm on stage one day, I'm getting yelled at because my socks are on the floor the next day. I got construction stuff to worry about, financing stuff, and business. And so there's a lot of similarities that we have. And, we're kind of the only guys that can cry to each other about it, because anyone else would just tell us to, shut up.
Well, and the thing that probably happens, I'm just imagining this, and you can tell me whether it's true or not, but when you guys are together on set, sitting in between your trailers, getting ready for the next shoot or the next day's shoot or whatever Renovation Resorts brings you, you're probably talking about fishing. But then when you go out fishing, you're probably talking about renovating or the next shoot or the next show or something like that.
A little bit. I mean, a lot of the times the conversations, between the trailers are about network contracts, advertising deals, development deals that we're putting on. A lot of talking about scheduling time to go fishing, those kinds of things, like the business part. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Yeah, we're good. Publicly we're enemies. We gotta keep that up. But behind the scenes, we're more like brothers.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to have the comical animosity between the two when it comes to the show. Yeah,
he's obviously the annoying little brother.
Right.
Right. I mean, he has to be. But
with the cooperation and the partnership on television shows, is there also a business partnership? Like, is he in a situation where he's investing in what you possibly might be doing in South Andros and vice versa with the McGillivray Fund or whatever?
We've dabbled and talked about doing a little bit of business together, but actually we haven't really, apart from the production on Reno Resort. Yeah, we've kind of kept it, which may ultimately, I mean, maybe that's better. We're just buddies for now. No wedding on the calendar, business or other. Hey, you never know. You never know. We might run out of content. We'll have to come up with something for next year, but.
Yeah. I can't believe I just looked at my clock here and realized that I've taken an hour of your time, and I should let you go. I know you're sitting in your truck.
I am. I got to go pick up a kid and then go drop him off at the other kid at the horse thing, and then Yeah, there's a lot going on. I got a film crew in my house moving around furniture right now for tomorrow.
We didn't even have a chance to talk about how you became the pilot and the current housing affordability issue facing Canadians. And
there's a lot. We're going to have another hour, Terry.
I think so. And then of course there's the purchase of the motorhome, which I think was just to get away from everything and everyone.
It was a strategic purchase. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I know you drove it across the country doing Brian's All In, but it's not.
And I actually here. I'll give you. You can see.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
Out in the weeds. It's like it's like on the space station. You know, they have the emergency escape pods. That's mine.
And I know that you're going to be in the Edmonton area. You'll be here for the renovation show. It's happening January 24th to the 26th here in Edmonton. You're going to be spending Friday night and a Saturday afternoon on stage, or is it Saturday and Sunday? Or
I don't even know yet. I've still got to get through Seattle and Ottawa and the Bahamas before that. Well, yeah, I think it's the Friday and Saturday. Might be Saturday. Well, it'll be on the EdmontonRenovationShow.com. So all the info will be there.
That's right. And there's a very good chance that we'll probably be
I'll probably see it. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have you in on the radio show as well.
Exactly.
Say hi to all the kids and to Sarah. It was great to chat with you. We'll see you soon, and be safe. Enjoy your day.
I will do. We'll do it again. Thanks, Terry.
Reluctantly.
Today's podcast brought to you by the Clayton Bellamy Foundation for the Arts, supporting education and community-based programs in the province of Alberta by providing financial support to arts programs in need. ClaytonBellamyFoundation.org.
Reluctantly.